Hey guys, HardlyBriefDan here with episode 46 of the Unity Make an RPG series. This is the second time I'm recording it. During the first time I started recording this video, my microphone fell off its stand and it made a real loud noise, and I didn't think that would be appropriate for the video. So here I am recording again, so if I move a little fast, I apologize. Excuse me. But basically what we're going to be doing today is continuing our status effects and our battle calculations for a turn-based combat system. But first off, I want to go ahead and apologize for the mishap. I left you guys with a really bad error, a crashing error, the first of which I've done, so I apologize for that. I definitely do not like doing that because leaving you guys with a broken game is not fun. Especially since I don't know when I'll be able to get another video out like consistently right now. But basically, I'll go ahead and explain the problem here, and we'll fix it. And I left a comment. Hopefully, all you guys saw that comment, at least voted it up or something, so that everyone knows that, hey, this is how you need to fix this problem, because I don't want to crash all your games all the time. But basically, the problem was we were creating a stack overflow, and the problem was originating from our base ability class. And the problem was, so we had this I added this status effect, this base status effect variable here called ability status effect, right? And when you do it, we create a private instance of it, and our private variables have a lowercase a instead of an uppercase a, like our public getters and setters. And basically, the problem was down here in our public getter and setter for our base or for our ability status effect, I left the capital A in our return value in our get and set value. Excuse me. So basically, it said return ability status effect with a capital A, set ability status equals value with a capital A, and that was causing Unity to crash because it didn't know what to do with didn't know what to set, didn't know what to get. It was basically going back on itself. So basically the way to fix it is you can go ahead and copy ability status effect up top, or just change the uppercase A to a lowercase a, and that should fix your problem. If not, try to leave it in the comments. I'll try to help you out. But that is the error that I was getting. Everything else works fine. It was just a crashing error because it didn't know what that variable was. It just kept reading itself, and that was causing a stack overflow. So again, I apologize for leaving that like that, but sometimes things happen. I ended the video on it because the video was getting really long, and I didn't want to keep it going because 40-minute video is long to edit. But anyways, we're gonna go ahead and get started. We're gonna work on status effects. We left off last time having started this public function called checkability for status effects, where it takes a base ability called used ability, which is this is the ability that the player uses that we're actually passing between a whole bunch of different functions. And we are returning nothing. We're actually going to probably change this to a case switch today. I read online over the weekend that the switch tables are faster. Not that it really matters for this case, but we'll go ahead and switch it to a switch case. It'll probably look a little neater than having a whole bunch of if-else statements. So basically what I want to do is go ahead and see if we can get this ability to show up, because that's where we left off last time. And then if it doesn't, we can go ahead and figure out why. So the first thing we need to do is I don't remember exactly where we put the burn attack. I think it's on just like attack ability or sword slash. So okay, so sword slash actually has the ability, and so we're going to go ahead and look at it. We're going to look for the burn status effect, and the burn status effect is called burn. So hopefully, a couple things we can do actually is to check is let's check first before we do anything. Is when we start the battle, let's actually see if our player has the ability. So what we'll do is go ahead and say debug, or see if the ability itself has the burn status effect on it. So we'll go ahead debug.log. Was it player move 1? Actually, we'll do this in our GUI script where we actually have the moves already. Sorry for jumping around. I'm gonna go ahead and open up the player. Or the battle GUI. Actually, I might have it open. I do. So I'm in the battle GUI class right now. And basically we have these two moves here. And what I want to do is go ahead and read this game information player move 2, I believe, is sword slash, right? So what we'll do is go ahead and just when we start this, we're going to go ahead and look at game information player move 2, which is our sword slash, which has the burn effect on it. And I want to just see if it actually has the effect. So we're doing game information dot player move to dot ability, let's say ability status effect dot name. This will actually prove to us if we have it. So I'm going to go ahead and press play in Unity, and I didn't see it, but it probably popped up. Okay, so we actually have the burn ability, which is good. It's attached to // so hopefully when we go ahead and press / down here, it actually jumps in and does it. So we're going to go ahead and hit /. It didn't look like it did it. I'm not sure. We'll go ahead and look for it. It should only do it once at the top, hopefully. So many. We can actually probably cut some of this out. And it looks like, okay, here we go. So it said try to apply effect. Ability has a 75% chance, which is perfect. So that means basically what's happening right now is exactly what we wanted. We're going here and saying, hey, this ability has a certain effect, or this ability has the burn effect. It has this percentage to apply. Let's try to apply it and then calculate damage, right? Which is what we want. And here you can go ahead and just see the damage calculation that we had done last time. So right now what we're going to go ahead and do is change this to a switch case, and we'll do that now. So we're going to go ahead and do switch. We'll say used ability dot status effect dot name. Right, so that will be what we're going to be switching between. And right now our first case is just going to be if the status effect name is burn. So we'll just do burn. Right, I believe you can do string. Oh, not like that. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and do break. So basically, in all these cases, this is where we're going to be doing all this. So I'm going to go ahead and grab these two lines of code, this debug statement and this calculate damage statement. I'm going to go ahead and cut it, and I'm going to paste it right after burn. I'm going to go ahead and delete our if statement because we don't want that anymore. I'm going to create a default case. The default case will run as basically an error, and we'll say we're going to debug an error, a log error, and I think I can make them one, and we'll just say error in status effect. I think that's how it works, right? I think you can create custom error statements like that. I could be wrong. I don't know. We'll figure it out. And it looks like we got something wrong. Cannot fall through. Why? Break. There we go. Okay. So we have a case. We created a switch case here. I'm going to go ahead and not do it like that. I'm tabbing to organize it, make it a little easier to read for all of us. Tab and tab and tab. Okay, so basically we have a case here. It's called the burn case. So basically if our status effect name is equal to burn, we're going to go ahead and debug this statement again and then jump into calculate damage. After we test this, just make sure it works, we're going to go ahead and do another case. Yeah, we'll do another private function that will calculate or try to actually apply that percent or apply the effect, which is good. That's what we want. And we'll also test our default case, see if that works. So we'll go ahead and press play. We're in Unity now. I'm going to go ahead and hit normal tack, and we get this null error, which is object reference. Okay. Bam. Oh, because we don't have, it doesn't have a status effect, right? Because we never attached one. That's why. Okay. So that error through. Let's see if our actual, it probably didn't get to that point. No. So basically that through because this doesn't have a status effect on it. If you go to our normal, if your attack ability doesn't even have a status effect, basically it's good, that will fail. So if it's equal to null, it will fail. So there's two things you can do. You can add a empty status effect here on every ability, or you can have a if statement, like a check, but it basically says, hey, before we go into this, does this ability even have a status effect? Let's see, where are we at? So in our battle state here, and so instead of just jumping straight in here, since the usability doesn't have this, because I'll show you, this is where it failed, right? You could say if, I believe we can go say if used ability dot ability, I might fail still because, anyways, used ability dot ability status effect does not equal null, so like that. Then we're going to go ahead and do this switch case, and I believe that should work. You might have to actually include just an empty spot in it. Normal attack. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I'm just testing some things. I don't remember. I didn't remember exactly, but basically, we never included a ability or a status effect on our attack ability here, so it's throwing the exception saying, hey, this doesn't exist, I can't even compare it, right? So what you'll have to do is put the ability in here, and you can just set it equal to null, so it's nothing if you don't want this ability to have a status effect. But anyways, we don't need to worry about that right now because we have a status effect, and it is called burn. So now that we have, actually we never tested it. We'll go ahead and test it again. So we'll hit /, and we should see it at the top. Right when it jumps into it, we'll see % damage, hopefully. Scroll through all this stuff. There it is. So our switch case is working perfectly. And now we need to try to go ahead and apply that status effect. So what we're going to do is under this public method, we're going to go ahead and create a private one. It's going to return void, and we're going to say try to apply status effect. Status effect. Like that. We're going to go ahead and send it our base ability and its used ability. We'll just keep it consistent because we want to send that value. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to look at the % chance. Look at % chance of status effect applying, right? And then using % chance apply effect. I know that's pretty redundant, but it's just kind of explaining to you what we're going to be doing in this function or method. So we're going to go ahead and look at that percentage value, and then we're going to try to do it. So what we can do is return a bool here if we want. Return true if it applied, return false if it didn't. Let me go. I'm going to check. Basically, we need a, well, no. Scratch that. All right. So here we are. We're going to go ahead and create a, I guess we'll do an int temp, a random temp we'll call it. And this is going to be a random variable, temp. It's going to be equal to random dot range between 0 and 101. Right, so let's go. Well, actually, we'll do 1 and 101. Excuse me. So this is going to give us a random variable between 1 and 100. Random number between 1 and 100. And that's going to be, this is our % roll. So basically, if our % chance 75 in this case for burn, if our random temp is equal to or less than 75, then we're going to go ahead and say it applied, right? So we're going to go if our used ability dot status effect dot percentage apply percentage, right? So if the status effect apply percentage is less than or equal to our random temp dot temp. Actually, we want it the other way around. We want our random temp to be less than or equal to. So cut that. Go ahead and redo it. So our random temp variable is less than or equal to our copy and paste used ability dot ability status effect dot status effect apply percentage. Oh, a lot to say. If that is true, then we're going to go ahead and say we're going to apply the status effect. So there's a couple things that we need to do here. We need to send this somehow to our battle calculation script so that we can go ahead and add status effect damage. And there's a couple ways we can do that. We're calling our battle calc script in our turn-based combat state machine, right? So a couple things we can do is create a static variable that is in battle calculations where we just set the ability damage or the status effect damage to our battle calculation script. So we can go ahead and create a public int. Actually, we don't need to keep it static, I don't think. Let's see. Well, we'll do public static int. We'll say status effect damage. So this is going to be the base damage amount, because that's all it needs to this would be the base damage amount if the status effect is applied, right? So basically, if this is true, if this returns true, if our random variable is less than our percentage or equal to it, then we know we've applied the status effect. I'll go ahead and write that down. So we apply the status effect, right? So what we need to do is go ahead and set that variable. There's a couple things you can do, though. You can say, hey, return true. If you return true, then we can go ahead and set it there. You could just set it automatically in here. Let's say, so we'll do the return true, right? So you know that it actually set. So you go return true. After this, if it didn't work, then we'll go ahead and return false. In our statement up here where we try to apply it and calculate damage after we call this function, which we need to do now. So after we, in our case burn here, we're going to go ahead and say try add status effect of used ability, like that. And then we'll say it. We could do an if statement. So if this returns true, I'm going to go ahead and shift tab all this over in a second, or tab it over, excuse me. So basically, if our status effect returns true here, we know we have applied the status effect. We need to go ahead and send either to our turn-based combat state machine the variable, which actually is a better idea. So I'm going to actually go ahead and copy this public static int variable. I'm going to move it to our turn-based combat state machine because we already have a couple static variables in there. And we're going to go ahead and send the status effect damage back to calculations. I don't know if it's really the best way to do it. I think it's better. This is the way I'm going to do it. Again, if you guys know a better way, tell me in the comments, right? Let everyone know, let the community know so that we could, improve ourselves. I don't want to, if you guys know better ways to do things, let me know and I can talk about it because I don't know the best way to handle things. This is just the way I've solved problems before. So basically, we're going to go ahead and add the status effect damage now. So we know we've returned true. So we're going to go in our turn-based combat state machine dot status damage, I think it's called. Status effect damage is going to be equal to our used ability dot ability power, right? And ability power, if you remember, we wrote down. I think we wrote it down. But basically, ability power is our base ability damage. No, we want status effect. Oh, my goodness. I'll get it right one day. Okay, so use ability status effect ability, whatever we call it. Ability status effect ability power, right? Okay, boom. So we're setting our status effect damage equal to our status effect power, which is our base, damage effect. We can actually name this status effect base damage if you want. That's probably a little smarter, more descriptive. We'll go ahead and change that base damage. So we know when we go ahead and send this to our battle calculations that we can change it. I'm going to go ahead and copy that and then paste it in our status effects here. Okay, so what we've done now, I'm going to go ahead and tab all that over, is we've created, I'm going to go actually turn off this debug statement. We don't need it right now. We've created a function called try to apply status effect. And if it returns true, we're going to go ahead and calculate we're going to go ahead and, if it returns true, we're going to go ahead and get the status effect power and we're going to set it equal to our status effect base damage. Now, if it returns false, there's a couple things we need to do. We need to go ahead and set the status effect damage equal to 0. And that's just basically a check. So if this returns true, we'll go ahead and change our state. We're going to create an else statement here. And this is where we're going to say else turn-based like that is going to be equal to 0. And then once we do that, we're going to go ahead and go into our calculate damage state, and then we're going to break out of this case. So again, we're going to use an ability. Once we use the ability, we're going to see if that ability has a status effect, okay? If the ability does have a status effect, in this case, if the status effect's name is burn, meaning this is the burn status effect, we're going to go ahead and try to apply that status effect using this private function or method. Excuse me about my phone. Basically, so we're going to try to apply it. If this returns true, meaning that it was applied based on our percentage calculation down here, then we're going to go ahead and set the status effect damage, which is a public static integer value, or variable public status effect base damage here. We're going to go ahead and set that equal to our status effect power, which is our base power for that effect. It's just a random number that we created when we created the effect that we can use in our battle calculations to really decide how that damage is calculated. And then otherwise, if it returns false, this else statement here, we're going to say, well, let's set our status effect damage to 0 because there is no status effect. And then we're going to go ahead and go into our calculate damage state. Now, you might be wondering, well, how are we going to use this variable? It's in turn-based combat state machine. Well, since it's public stack, we can access it in our battle calculations function here. I'm going to go ahead and in Unity. I'm just checking to make sure we don't have any errors, which we don't, or any exceptions or anything bad. Which looks good now, so we can continue on and plug ahead. What we want to do now is actually check. At least I think it's good to check to see. We know this well, hopefully this will apply. We're actually going to run a debug statement here down in our after we create a random number, and we want to check the random temp. Random temp. We want to see what this value is so we can know that it should be applied. And then let's see. I'm going to go ahead and turn off some of those debugs. We got tons of debug statements going off right now, and that's okay, but it's getting kind of cluttered. So I'm going to go ahead and turn some of them off. Like calculating damage, we don't need that one right now. I don't even see the others. Goodness, Battle GUI, I think we have some. Again, sorry about my phone. Go ahead and turn. No, we want that effect name on. That's good. Status effect. Just trying to find all these debug statements. I don't know where we put them all. Okay. Well, shoot. Oh, here's some. Usability, we don't want that one. Total damage. We can use total damage. I know there's more. Goodness, I can't find them. Whatever. Okay. Alright. So, we're going to go into Unity. Clear all those little errors we have there. Warnings, excuse me. We're in player choice. I'm going to go ahead and hit / and pause it. And we're going to go see what our random value was. We're going to see if it actually applied the damage. Hopefully it worked. If not, we'll figure out why. Okay, so we have 49. We got a random number 49, so we should have applied it. And what we're going to do now, we know that this is working fine. And what I should have done was create another debug statement, basically where it says, "Hey, it returned true," and we applied the effect. So we're going to say returned true, like this, comma applied effect. And again, I just do this for testing, making sure everything works fine. This, a good rule of thumb, I guess, is to write a good amount of code that you feel comfortable with, and then stop and make sure it works, because you don't want to add hundreds and hundreds of lines of code to find out that something you wrote 2 hours ago is failing you, right? So I love using debug statements everywhere and saying, hey, this is getting here, it's not getting here, that kind of thing. And I find it's easier to narrow down where your problems are faster. So basically, now if we get a random variable, it's less than 75, we're going to go ahead and jump into and say, hey, we returned true, we applied the effect, and we're going to go ahead and debug the status effect damage as well. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this debug statement. And we're going to go ahead and do debug.log turn-based combat state machine .status effect base damage. I want to see what this is, and we know it should be 10, I believe. We'll go ahead and check. Let's look at our burn status effect. Our status effect power is 10 in this case, so we're going to make sure that it actually works. So I'm going to go ahead and control to save, and hopefully we get lucky and roll a good value. If not, we'll go ahead and we'll keep trying. We'll keep plugging ahead. But basically, we're going to press play, / pause, scroll up, and let's see what we rolled. Okay, I didn't see it. Oh, so we rolled 84, so we actually didn't apply it, so that's good to know. Go ahead and play again. / pause, scroll up again. Just doing the same things. We want to. Okay, here we go. So we applied it. We rolled a 41. Well, let's start at the top. We're in our status effects, right? We're adding it. We rolled a 41, so we actually returned true and we applied the effect, and our effect power is 10, which is exactly what we want. So now in our battle calculations, we can say, oh, okay, well, we have this calculate ability damage, and which is true. So now we're going to go ahead and say calculate. Well, we have this calculate use player ability damage, which is just ability damage. We can actually create a new function, and probably what this one should be is just calculate used player total damage, or calculate player total damage. Let's do that. We're going to go ahead and change this over. So go ahead and create a public function. It's going to return a void for now, and we're going to say calculate total player damage. Again, if you want your enemy to use the same functions, which you might or might not want, then make sure that you can change this name. I think we're going to create, using AI, we'll probably have a couple different functions to calculate damage to kind of change difficulty. But you don't have to do that. You can use the same exact formulas and whatnot. It's up to you. This, again, I know I keep saying this, but this is where you can get really creative with how your game feels and stuff. So we're going to actually we're going to send the same ability. We're actually going to call this function, and we're going to call this function probably in privately. So I created this new public function here. I'm going to go ahead and calculate total used ability damage here. I'm going to cut that. I'm going to paste it up at the top in our new function. I'm going to go ahead and debug our total ability damage up here. Basically, I'm eliminating this because we don't need calculate a player ability damage. We want total damage, right? Because now we're adding more things to it. Before we were just doing our ability, but now we're doing status effects. We're going to be doing we're going to take in a critical strike, armor, all of our stat modifiers, all that stuff. That's what's going to be in here. So now that we've done that, we need to go in our turn-based combat state machine, and we need to go ahead and change our battle calculate script to calculate our total damage instead, right? So I just changed this down here. Let me zoom in. I keep forgetting. I'm so sorry. But basically, we have this battle state machine or battle script here. We're calculating the damage. You can see here. Let me go through and show you again the status effect scripts because I know. I apologize. I gotta just set it up so that when it opens mono develop, it just zooms in for me. I just keep going. I don't zoom in this much when I'm typing by myself. But anyways, here we are. This is the status effect class. This is our new switch case statement. You can look at it here. The private try to apply status effect. Hopefully, again, I apologize. I'm going to write a big note, above my computer and say, hey, remember to zoom in when you program in a monodevelop. But basically, here's the new function we create. Try to apply. Create a random temp variable here. We compare it to see if we apply the status effect. If we do, we return true. And using this if statement here, we're saying, hey, let's go ahead and apply that damage. So after we do that, we're going to go ahead and let's see. I'm going to go ahead and control us to save, and we'll go into, where were we again? We were in our battle calculations. Here we are. Oh, and also in the turn-based combat, we changed this to calculate total player damage, which is the new public void method that we just created. So now that we have our ability, or our status effect power, we're going to go ahead and create a private float, or private method. It returns a float type, and we're going to say calculate status effect damage. Okay, this is going to not inherit the ability because we already have the power in which is basically in our turn. It's a static variable that we created here, this status effect based damage. So we already have it. We can access it and mess around with it. So what we need to decide is what is our status effect damage, right? So we're going to create a private int for now. Private int, we're going to say status private int, we'll say status effect damage. So this is the damage we calculate for, that is our status effect damage. So we're going to set that equal to something, and there's a few things we can set it just equal to our turn-based combat. Turn-based combat state machine ability or status effect damage, right? We can set it just to that, or we can multiply it by some variable. We can multiply it by our main stat modifier. We could do that and kind of keep it the same. So we'll say, hey, our ability power is 10, so let's get our our modifier and modify that. You know, I thought we added. I'm looking at that now. I thought we added our secondary stat here. Find player main stat and calculate main stat modifier. Guess we didn't. But basically, we can go ahead and say we can use that same calculation. Again, this is where you can get creative with the game. Maybe you just want to use the base power at all times, so it only takes 10 or whatever you set it to. I'm actually going to go ahead and set it to times multiply by game information dot player level. So it's 10 times whatever our player level is. So if you're level 5, it's going to do 50. That might be too much, but again, we're just playing around with numbers. It doesn't have to be perfect for now. So that's our status effect. Status effects are pretty powerful, as you can see. I'm going to go ahead and look in our game information script and actually in our battle state start and make sure we're actually getting our player level, because if we're not, then we're going to run into an issue with that. And it looks like we're not, because remember, we haven't actually created a player. We're just testing this this combat system. So we need to go ahead and set our player level to whatever, to a value. So I'm going to go ahead and do game information. Now, sorry, Jumper, I'm in the battle state start class, right? The script that we created, and I'm in the private method called determine player vitals. And this is basically where I'm just setting everything to something. So I'm going to make sure in our game information, you remember we set up our class up here so that we can have some abilities and stuff to play around with and get our stats. So at the end of it, I'm going to go ahead and do game information dot player level, and we're going to go ahead and set that equal to like 2. So we're level 2 right now, nothing crazy. Actually, we'll go ahead and send it 1. It looks to me actually like we already have been using player level. Maybe it's already set to 1. I don't remember. And this is again because we don't have a save file. Ideally, once we have a save file and we load all this stuff up, we're not going to have a lot of this. Some of it we'll have still, but we're not going to be telling, the compiler that we're a mage in our determined player vitals. It's already going to know we're a mage, or whatever class you are, and it's going to know the level and stuff. We're just doing this like this now because again we don't have a save file. So I'm going to just go ahead and make sure that we're level 1, excuse me. We're going to go back into our battle calculation script, and we're going to go ahead and debug this status effect. So debug log, we want to output this damage and see what it is. So we're going to say, I'm going to just call it S damage, like that, like that. Go ahead and do a space, and we'll say plus status effect damage. Damage. Goodness, I won't find it. IntelliSense is failing me. Alright, so we'll do that. And now we're going to go ahead and call this function up here. Oh, we're supposed to be returning that, so we'll go ahead and do return. And we're going to cast it as an int for now because we don't even need to do that. We'll just say int. Like that. So we're going to return an integer value, and we're going to go ahead and add it to a total ability or total damage, which means we need to create a function or a variable, private variable now. Private. We actually are going to make a float just in case to catch it all, and we'll say total damage. Let's say total player damage. Actually, be a little more specific. So we'll do total player damage, and we're going to set that equal to. Total player damage is going to be equal to our total used ability damage up there, right? So total used ability damage plus our status effect damage, which is our calculate status effect damage script or method. Calculate status effect damage like that. And what you could do is actually, instead of having this total used ability damage here, which is a little bit more descriptive, and it's probably easier to read and probably the better way to do it than just calling this function right out. You could actually go up here and grab this, copy that, and paste it, because it's the same value. This is the same value as this. We're going to go ahead and encapsulate all that in parentheses, just so it knows, hey, this is what we're casting as an int, like that. And then we're going to go ahead and instead of debugging total used, actually we'll go ahead and debug that. We want to debug also our total player damage, and then I'll probably end the video here. But we want to see if this works. Basically, so we're adding our player or damage, our status effect damage, which is what we want. So Go ahead in Unity. Hopefully we're not, crashing anything again. I'm going to go ahead and press play. Player choice, /. Let's see if... Already looks like we added it. It looks like we added 10 to it, which is good. So we're going to check everything, right? We want to make sure it's all working fine. Okay, so we went into our add status effects. We're checking the move to see if it can add the effect. We rolled a 39, and remember our limit was 75 or less, which we got. So we returned true, and we applied the effect to the player. The effect base power or base damage is 10 in this case, and that's just telling us that variable. We calculated our damage. We got our stat modifier here, which was 8. And we calculated, was it 8 times that in our endurance or something, which gives us our ability damage, which is, I can go ahead and show you. This is that total used ability damage, right, which is the 130. So right now we attacked for 120 damage, and then we went ahead and, what's this 8 value? Okay, this is just the debug statement in our stat calculations. So this 8 is the same as that 8, but basically our base ability, our ability damage, is 120, and that's using our 2 modifiers of based on stats. And then we went ahead and said, okay, let's add in our status effect damage, which was 10 times our player level in this case, which was 1, so we have 130. So right now our total move has done 130 damage. We have yet to roll. There's a couple things we need to do, which we'll work on the next video. And we can go ahead and look at it, right? We have move damage done. We have our status effect done. We need to add our critical strike, and we need to take in effect our weapon damage and subtract everything from our armor. So there's quite a few things left we need to do, but we're making great progress. Hopefully you like the way it's coming together, and you like the way it's looking. In the next video, we'll go ahead and start looking at critical strikes and how I'm gonna do critical strikes. If you have any comments about how you would like to see critical strikes being done, go ahead and leave them in the just the comments below. I'll probably use luck as a modifier for critical strike, along with probably overpower, which I believe overpower is our actual critical strike thing. So what we'll do is say, hey, overpower will be our main stat, and then our secondary main stat will be luck or something like that, and then depending on how that all works out, we'll determine whether or not we get a crit. If we get a crit, it'll probably be like 130% damage added to it, and we want those to be kind of rare. And we can also add like a ability value in our in our base abilities. So let's say attack ability has a crit rating of 110, meaning it will do 110 added 110%, or maybe it does 20% more damage. So if we crit, we get an extra 20% damage. We can figure that out. Leave in the comments below. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you want to do. Please like, subscribe, follow me on Twitch, Twitter, or Facebook. I try to update you guys on those things, let you know what I'm doing. You can also get notifications when the videos are released on YouTube. Appreciate all the support. Appreciate all the comments. Keep them coming, and I'll talk to you guys next time.